Welcome back to Old School Sports and our OOTP 23 playthrough of the Kansas City Royals. We are at the start of free agency for 2033 to 2034. What we need to find this offseason is going to be some pitching. Zach Jacobs, who led the American League in ERA, 32-year-old, has been with us since we drafted him, is headed to free agency. Not going to be able to bring him back. And Ricky Vanasco, another one of our key starters, is out probably until May or June with a serious injury. No idea what he's going to look like when he comes back. So 40% of our starting rotation from last season will be gone. And we also have lost a few relievers, including our closer from last year. So need to add some talent to our pitching staff. If we can add a starter and a really good bullpen arm or two, that would be great. The issue, as you can see, is we've only got about $16 million for free agents. And honestly, we're not going to have that much because I am going to actually increase our scouting budget back to where it was last year right now, and also increase our development budget back to where it was last year. Generally, I kind of move them down to give ourselves a little more flexibility in the off season, but I don't want to risk lowering those. Scouting and development has been a huge part of why we've been able to put together a very long and successful run as the Royals, despite being a middle market kind of team. And I want to make sure that we don't underinvest in that area over the next few years, because Bobby Witt Jr. and Dylan Cruz, our two highest paid players, could both be gone after this season. Gordon Graceffo, an important starting pitcher, could be gone. RJ Dabovich, one of our top relievers, could be gone. And then Alex Vasquez, the best hitter on our team, we only have one arbitration year left with him before he could be gone also. So there's going to be potentially quite a big talent departure for this team over the next couple of years. So want to make sure that we continue to, one, invest as heavily as possible in scouting and development, but two, while doing that, we are in win now mode. And after a 104-58 record back in 2033, even though we are going to lose some players this offseason, our goal is to have another very competitive product on the field for the 2034 season. We upped our ticket prices from $36 to $38 midway through the season last year, and you can see over the second half of the season we were still generally selling out. Fan interest is still off the charts, although I'm sure we will take some lumps when we lose some free agents over the next few weeks. But fan loyalty is very good, so we're going to bump up our ticket price just another notch to $39 for next season. Hopefully that will generate a bit more revenue per game for us. Hopefully we can still sell around 18,500 season tickets given the interest that we've got. Looking at the players that are going to be available in free agency, can see the real high-end talent: Carlos Correa, Ricky Zavala, who's an international free agent from Cuba. The two most prominent players on the list. And then a lot of relief pitchers as usual, a few starters mixed in. Right now, the guy that I am most interested in, and I recognize that we probably need someone who can start at some point, but Justin Brule, nice ratings, 3 pitches. He is a pure reliever despite having 3 pitches, but he has been a very effective pitcher over the course of his career at the major league level. 146 ERA plus and 76 FIP minus. He was ineffective with the Yankees at the end of last season, which is not optimal. He was coming off of a torn rotator cuff in 2032, and it looks like he basically missed most of the year with that injury. Did come back at the end of the season, pitched okay in Scranton, got knocked around a little bit with the Yankees. But we have very high scouting accuracy on him with these ratings. OSA still has him as similar ratings, and he has kind of pitched recently. last scouting report on him was from Travis Lee on the 19th of September, just 2 months ago. So pretty confident that he's still an effective pitcher, not looking for an incredible amount of money, and he's very good against both righties and lefties, but he's particularly effective against left-handed pitchers. And although $4.4 million is on the high side for a lefty specialist, in the context of the other top players that are out there, I think he's probably the first guy that we're going to look to add right now. You can see we've offered minor league contracts to a bunch of people, just trying to build out our minor league system a little bit, since we let a lot of minor league free agents go also, but haven't made any offers to anyone anyone at all at the major league level. So we're going to see if we can maybe set something up with Justin Brule, looking for a 1-year deal at $4.4 million. Let's see what he thinks about $4 million and without a trade clause. He probably won't love that, but he's willing to think about it. So $4 million offer to him. The other guy, and we talked a little bit about him in our last episode, is this 22-year-old center fielder, Kai-Shek Chang, who's coming over from Taiwan. Profiles is potentially an above-average offensive player. He is a corner outfielder. You could play him in center if we needed to. Only 22 years old, going to turn 23 in about a month. Supposedly looking for $1.2 million. We are scouting him right now, but before we even finish scouting him, I'm going to see if he would do it. And it seems, he's focused on a minor league with major league option contract, worth $1.2 million if promoted. I'm willing to give him $1 million if we promote him, and we'll see what he thinks of that. It's not a huge need for us, but with the fact that, although I think we're fine with outfielders for next year, we are likely and almost certainly going to be losing Dylan Cruz after this season when his contract runs out. $24.2 million. We only got the Red Sox to retain 5% of that when we picked him up. So he is a very expensive player, and I think that coming out of this season, or coming out of next season, 2034, certainly could see people like Soto and Zavala and ultimately Victor Avelar getting more playing time. But if we were also able to potentially have Chang in our system, wouldn't be the worst thing in the world. So we're going to at least explore potentially bringing him on board with a minor league contract with major league options. And honestly, Brule and Chang is really all we're going to do right now. You can see if we do get them both signed, leave us about $6.8 million for free agents, and actually would be down to about $5.8 million if we end up exercising the option to put Chang onto the major league team. So I don't think we're going to get a frontline starting pitcher for $6.8 or $5.8 million at any point. But we are willing to kind of wait things out, see if prices of some of these players comes down. And then we're also going to, over the coming months, explore the trade market a little bit and see if maybe we can pick up a young pitcher with some talent. We do have a pretty highly regarded minor league system, and I'd say that we probably have some excess bats in the minors, and we're probably a little bit low in terms of the top flight pitchers that we have there. So if we had to trade away, one of these many left fielders we have among the top prospects in our system, would not be the worst thing in the world if we could center a trade for a good young pitcher on some of the outfield talent that we do have in our farm system right now. And we decided to take a quick look on who's on the trading block right now. Mason Kelly, 32-year-old starting pitcher from the Dodgers, piqued our interest a little bit. He's in the final year of his contract this upcoming season, making $10.5 million. So the dollars could work, particularly if the Dodgers are willing to keep some of his salary. Has the stamina to be a starter. Has 5 pitches, including an incredible circle change up, and a good fastball. The issue is just that he's an extreme fly ball pitcher who doesn't throw that hard, and he's got very little movement, and you can see that that has manifested itself in massive amounts of home runs allowed. 45 last year, 32 the year before, and 28 in 2031, which has resulted in some mediocre to poor earned run averages. So even though he is coming off a season with a 3.3 WAR, probably not the first guy that we're going to go after. I think that Kansas City is definitely historically a pitcher's park, but Dodger Stadium doesn't tend to be a huge hitter's park either. So the fact that he's given up so many home runs there is a little bit scary to us. You can maybe look at the, I can't see the home versus away split. That would be more useful. We can probably do it for last year at least. Yeah, I mean, he gave up 29 home runs in 145 innings in Dodger Stadium and 16 home runs in 81 and a third innings on the road. So he gives up homers no matter where he's pitching. And in an expected development, Alejandro Suna has moved on from our team. He was the outfielder we picked up last year, was an all-star in the first half of the season with the Pirates with 23 homers in 94 games, and he proceeded to hit just 2 home runs in 182 at-bats with our team. You can see he ended up going to the Dodgers, $23 million a year, 6-year deal. He's 31 years old. He's already fragile physically, given that we have the likes of Avear coming up for the first time, as well as Zavala and Soto in the outfield. It's obviously a hit to lose a bat like that, but was just not someone we were going to be able to afford to bring back, and felt that we had some good young options coming up through the system. So the fans aren't thrilled with it. You can see we took a 3-point hit to fan interest from his departure, but it was not an unexpected development. So Justin Brule has come back to us and says that our offer is the best that he's gotten. We offered him $4 million for a year, but supposedly the Angels are also interested in his services. Keep in mind the Angels are the team that knocked us out of the playoffs this past season and went on to win the World Series. So would certainly love to add him to our staff rather than have him end up on one of our top competitors in the American League. And we did get Justin Brule locked up to that 1-year deal. So that's an important addition to our bullpen. We needed to add a left-handed arm, and we needed to add a big, prominent arm for the bullpen. And I think Brule fits the bill with both of those. So don't know that he's necessarily going to go right into our closer role, but I think it is certainly possible. Might as well actually see what the team looks like under new manager Bobby Crosby when we put him onto the pitching staff. Can see got the 4-man rotation from the playoffs still there, and Vanasco's not going to be with us. Hopefully, we'll have him back in May or June, but it's going to be interesting to see what Bobby Crosby thinks this pitching staff should look like right now. Borgman, Lagerwell, Graceffo. He has Vanasco slotted in even though he's hurt. And then Tyler Bosma, who has closed for us but has also started a lot for us over the last several years. So not a shock to see him in the 5-hole. Will be interesting to see whether Mackenzie Gore, Bryce Hubbard, or maybe perhaps Jaden Woods ends up in that 5-hole for the pitching staff when we get into the spring training and next regular season if we don't end up signing another starter. And you can see that right now Brule actually is slotted right into that closer role. So obviously a lot can still change. It's only December 1st, but it's possible that that's going to be the big move of our offseason. And it does seem like there's a fair amount of interest in the free agent Kai-Shek Chang. Looks like Houston, the Angels, and St. Louis are also interested in him along with us. But at least it wasn't a no-go with our offer for that minor league contract with major league option. And Yeifer Perdomo, who had been a reliever with us for the last couple of years, looks like he is signed with the Cubs. Surprised that there's actually a big fan reaction to that. He was not, lost a couple points more in fan interest, although he wasn't a particularly prominent player in the organization, must have been relatively popular with the fans. And they can also see that Kai-Shek Chang has come back to us and says that San Diego is offering him a better offer. So let's see what he's looking for at this point. We do have a little higher scouting accuracy on him now. The report came back a few days ago from Travis Lee. Certainly profiles as a pretty interesting offensive player. And so far, he only wants a little more money with that minor league contract with major league options. I'll give him even a little more than he's looking for. Put it up to $1.25 million. At least see what he has to say about that offer. And with the Rule 5 draft coming up shortly, we did add 3 players to the 40-man roster. Third baseman Billy Dominguez, who we picked up when we traded away Ricardo Cabrera last year. Probably doesn't have a key spot on the major league team. He does have option years left with all of the young infielders we have. Don't think he's quite as good as most of them offensively, and he's probably not as good as any of them defensively, except for maybe Rich Alvarado, who's definitely a better hitter, but is some decent organizational depth if we do have some injuries in the infield this coming season, so would prefer not to lose him. Israel Gutierrez, who was a scouting discovery about 6 years ago, hit .269 with 16 homers, 65 runs driven in Class A ball this year. Does potentially profile as a slightly above average bat, has a good personality, so we had room on the roster and didn't want to risk losing him. And then Dan Keogh, who's one of the top pitching prospects in our organization, second round pick back in 2028, split last year between rookie ball, A ball, and high A ball, so he's still a couple of years away probably from being able to produce at the major league level. Obviously still has some growth to do in terms of his stuff, his control, and his curve and his changeup, but did not want to risk someone perhaps taking him from us. Don't think any of those guys, with the exception of Dominguez, would be a big-time player at the major league level right now, but still didn't want to risk losing any of them. And another day, another departure. Alexis Diaz, the relief pitcher that we picked up in a trade with the Dodgers, signed for $6.7 million a year for potentially the next 2 years with the Cubs. He was a little underwhelming for us, 3.43 ERA in 21 innings. Obviously, like the profile of him, and he's been a pretty successful pitcher over the course of his career. But getting Justin Brule for $2.7 million a year less, I think, is probably the way that we are supposed to play it as the Royals. But we did take another little hit to fan interest, unfortunately, with his departure. And we still got a couple left that'll be coming our way, probably most significantly Zach Jacobs. And we've gotten up to our pick in the Rule 5 draft. You can see there's a fair amount of 3-star players available. And there's also a couple players that our scout thinks have 3.5-star potential. So there will be guys for us to investigate a little bit and look into. Before we do that, let's just see what Travis Lee recommends. He recommends we take on Johan Oviedo, almost 36 years old, right-handed reliever. Has a decent profile, definitely not an overwhelming pitcher. Has been pretty mediocre the last few years in Chicago, Seattle, and Boston. Looking at his stats over the course of his major league career, he's been a pretty average pitcher with a 94 ERA plus, 102 FIP minus. Throws the ball hard with 743 strikeouts and 658 innings, but has also walked 309 batters. So decent stuff, not the best control in the world. somebody to think about since we need a pitcher, but I'm hoping that I can find someone who's a little more interesting to me than Oviedo. And there's a couple pitchers who were more interested in Oviedo. One of them is Zach Green, 37-year-old reliever, right-hander, going to be making 1.18 million this coming year. Strangely, for a guy who's 37 years old, who was in the majors in our division last year, we only have a low scouting accuracy on him, which is a little bit weird. The Dodgers actually just signed him a couple days ago, but didn't put him on the 40-man roster. But has a decent profile. Hasn't been incredibly successful over the course of his major league career. Pretty league average with a 101 ERA plus and a 97 FIP minus. But I find him a little more intriguing than Oviedo. And the other guy is Chase Walter, who is on the Angels. And he literally has pretty limited major league experience, as you can see. Didn't break in with St. Louis until he was in his early 30s. And he's been a pretty league average pitcher over the course of his career, too. Very small sample size. Do like the fact that he's got 3 pitches, pretty nice stuff, acceptable movement. His control is not great. Only making $900,000 next year, though. So I think I'm leaning towards picking Chase Walter here. No guarantees that he's going to make the 26-man roster, but if he doesn't, we will just send him back to the Angels. So Chase Walter is picked. We are going to keep moving on. And, oh, sorry. I claimed Chase Walter. I did not want to do that. I wanted to draft Chase Walter. Fans are interested in him, so I guess that's positive. So we will keep moving ahead with the Rule 5 draft here. Let's continue it. Auto draft until our next pick. See who, if anyone, is out there at this point. Scouting director still recommending Oviedo. Not all that excited about him. It does appear that Zach Green is still out there. I like his high leadership, high work ethic. He's another guy who's probably not going to ultimately make the team, but we're just bringing arms into camp at this point. We've got room on the 40-man roster, so we're going to bring on Zach Green also. The fans seem to like both Zach Green and Chase Walter coming. Actually got a nice boost in fan interest from bringing those two guys on. You can see it does kind of limit the money that we have for free agents, but the nice thing about those two guys is if we need to come up with another $1 million or so, we just send one of them back to the team that they came from, and that'll open up some more money for us in free agency. So we have now effectively added the left-handed closer rule, and then we've also just added a couple of potential right-handed arms for the bullpen. So who knows if either Green or Walter is going to end up making the 26-man roster, but at least we've got a few options for when we break camp in spring training in a few months. And here in the third round, Scout still recommending we sign Johan Oviedo. Not interested in doing that. I like the other two pitchers better, and I think it's unlikely we'll keep two of them. It's probably unlikely that we'll even end up with one of them. But so I don't think we need to bring Oviedo into camp at this point. So we are going to finish up the Rule 5 draft and see what things look like. And for Rule 5 draft, it was actually pretty active. We had the last pick in both the first and the second round, but still brought on Walter and Zach Green, and you can see a lot of other players were picked up by various teams. So we are going to keep moving forward in this off season. before we know it, it's going to be 2034. And here on January 4th, some good news and some bad news. Zach Jacobs is gone. That's bad news, but not completely unexpected. Got a supplemental second rounder for him. He ended up not getting nearly the money he was looking for, only $10.5 million. Wow, that's surprising because he was looking for $20 million a year. He turned down the $18.9 million qualifying offer for us, so 5 years, only a little over $10 million a year with the A's. Honestly, we would have brought him back at that kind of level. I probably should have explored it with him, but I have a feeling if we had offered him a $10 million contract when he was looking for 20, it's hard to imagine that he would have accepted it. The good news, though, is we did get Chang, signed him to that minor league contract with major league options. So I think he's another pretty interesting bat to have in camp. As we've talked about a lot, I feel like we're pretty set with as far as our everyday players, but there's going to be injuries in camp, and there's probably going to be some players who underperform. And with Avelar, Zavaya, and Soto, we do have 3 outfielders who all still have minor league options. The plan was certainly to have all 3 of them on the major league team this year, but we are still playing a win right now, and if we think we're going to be a better team with Chang in the majors than one of those guys, then that's what we're going to end up doing coming out of camp. So glad to at least have the option to get a look at him, and if we do bring him up to the major league level, he's not going to be making a ton of money. I think when you look at the amount of development he still has ahead of him, he really would be a player who you'd probably want to play Double-A for a month, move him up to Triple-A for a couple months, have him continue to develop a little bit more, and see exactly what you have with him. But at least we've got the option to potentially put him on the major league roster if we think that's the right decision for the Royals. And in the wake of the departure of Jacobs, just taking a look at the starters who are still available as far as free agents. The big guys are off the market. The most reasonable is certainly Rosny Contreras. Had a lot of injuries, and he's fragile injury proneness now. Didn't have the best year with the Mets last season, but according to our scouts, still profiles as a useful-ish pitcher. Over the course of his career, he's been a little bit better than average, I guess, all things considered. Has made 3 all-star teams. So he would be an interesting arm. Brandon Williamson, similar, also fragile. You look at him over the course of his career, and he's been a little below average in terms of his actual production, and he's also looking for more money. And then Travis Garnett is the youngest of the 3, but looking for the most money, $19 million for the lefty. So clearly that's not going to work for us. You can see we've only got about $5.6 million, so we'd still have to offer Contreras significantly less than he's looking for. So I'm not going to do that yet. We'll request an updated scouting report just to see if we can learn anything else about him. But his price is going to have to come down materially for us to be in play. And we did get an updated scouting report from Travis Lee. Doesn't look all that different, although it looks like his 3rd and 4th pitches are maybe not as strong as we thought they were, but still has a 4-pitch arsenal. Could certainly pitch on the back end of our rotation for us. Looking at the OSA ratings, they still have him a little better. Going to at least start talking contract with him. Yeah, $8.3 million a year for 3 years is just not anywhere in the neighborhood. We'll offer him a minor league contract. That's going to just insult him and make him angry, but maybe that will help get him a little more realistic about the dollars that he's looking for at this point. Just to kind of see what was out there as far as top-end pitchers and trades, did a search just looking for people with 50 stamina and then at least 55 stuff, movement, and control. You can see Contreras is the only free agent that's out there, and we've got Borgman and Lagerwell on our team who meet that criteria also. There's a fair amount of young pitchers with lots of potential that meet those criteria. Perhaps not shockingly, and I'm sure not shockingly, the asking price for all of them is way off the charts. Have put in some deals with the top 3 prospects in our system, and the teams are still laughing in our faces. So I don't think there's anything to do right now. Would love to see if we can get Contreras at some point. I don't think he's going to sign that minor league contract that we offered him, and he's still looking for about $8.3 million when we've only got about 5.6, and that's really more like 4.4 if we do decide that we would bring the international free agent that we signed to the minor league contract with major league options onto the major league team. So we don't have a ton of flexibility right now, but he is certainly our number 1 target among the players who are still free agents. Just don't know if we have the money to get anything done with him right now. So Contreras, not surprisingly, refused the minor league offer. He's looking for $8 million for 1 year. I'm sure he's going to be insulted if we offer him $4 million. We will put in $1 million bonus if he gets the Cy Young Award. Give him $250,000 if he makes the All-Star team. And we'll give him $500,000 if he pitches 160 innings for us. I still don't think there's any way he's going to go for that. His mood isn't that great to begin with, but I'm almost scared to click ask for response because I know it's not going to be good. But yeah, contract length is perfect, but it only came down $100,000, and he's not in a good mood about it as we expected. So maybe he will re-engage with us down the line, but we just can't afford him right now. And the player development update here on February 1st was not good. Ricky Vanasco looks like he's coming off of that torn UCL, and you can see that his control rating, which has always been his Achilles heel, looks like it may be dropping through the floor. He's going to be making $11 million each of the next couple years. We had tried shopping him around several months ago, and there was no interest as might be expected for a player coming off a big injury, still making pretty good money. I'm going to shop him around just to see if there's anything out there. I tend to think there probably still is not. Hey, there is one offer for Ricky Vanasco. Imagine that. It's our old buddy Shi-Tong Kin, who is still with the Rockies, and spent most of last season in the minors. Although actually he had 3 different stops in the minors, but he was up with Colorado for 236 at-bats, hit just 220. So that contract is still a lot worse than Ricky Vanasco's contract. The one thing I will say about Ken is that he is still very durable, and he is still a very versatile defensive player. But the way his offensive production just dropped off the map is just shocking and frightening. And the fact we were able to get out of that contract was a huge win for us. But back to today, the fact that that's all we can get for Vanasco is not a good sign. What if we throw in something with Vanasco? Can we get a little bit more? What if we add in Kai-Shek Chang? He's a decent prospect. We just signed him, so that makes me feel like I don't really have any stakes in him. Does that change anything? Actually, there are a few people. Wow, I didn't think I was going to have much to think about here. Villaviles. He's wrecked physically, but he's in the last year of a contract, not making much money. Or Mike Ferrer, who used to be in our system. You can see he was in AAA in Omaha last year and actually played a little bit for us before we traded him away. I don't really want to get rid of Chang, but if we get rid of both him and Vanasco, that opens up a ton of money for us. Taisuke Yamaoka, veteran reliever. Don't love the personality. Making a lot of money, but he is in the last year of his contract. I think you just take Ferrer as a salary dump, I guess, if you're going to do that trade. You could also do Aviles. He's out of option years, though. And he's wrecked physically. Huh. What if we throw in a prospect instead of Chang? Not a top prospect, but not the worst prospect in the world either. But, you know, someone who maybe turns into something. Jaden McDuffie, this first baseman, doesn't excite me very much. Does he have any value? Vanasco and McDuffie? No, that doesn't get us anything. So it does appear that the young international free agent does have some value. What about Billy Dominguez? I like Dominguez. We talked about him earlier, and he certainly does have some value if we have some injuries, but nope, not enough there. So we have to give up a legitimate-ish prospect, it appears. Alfredo Mena, the shortstop, he's got to have some value. I honestly think that I would rather probably give up the young outfielder than Mena. Yeah, you can see that's actually even slightly more attractive to the receiving team. I don't know. I got something to think about here. Because my fear has been that Vanasco is going to be done when he comes back from that torn UCL. And getting rid of him would open up a good amount of money for us where we could go right after just about anyone who's still on the free agent market. I'm really torn on whether I should do this deal. If Vanasco's control is really 25, he's done. He's had low control over the course of his career. But, you know, looking at the scouting report, that's a 10-point drop potentially from where we previously thought he was. And he's been a pretty effective pitcher over the course of his career, but you can see that his stuff and his movement have also been deteriorating over the last couple of years. And with the drop in control, he's just useless and expensive if that's really what he looks like coming back from this torn UCL. I don't love having to give up Alfredo Mena. Really nice glove. He was our second round pick just a couple of years ago. But he's never going to have much of a bat in the majors. I mean, he hit 264 in Double-A last year. He did hit 296 in high A ball, but he was 202 in low A ball last year, so those results are kind of all over the map, quite honestly. But looking at those numbers and then looking at his ratings, you know, it doesn't seem like he's going to be a big-time major league bat. And with all the young infielders we have, we probably can afford to get rid of him. It's just that I think we can get more than essentially nothing for him if we just packaged him by himself. But getting rid of Vanasco is what's the reason why we have to get rid of him. You know, if we try to make a trade with Ferrer for the Red Sox, can we get anything else out of them? And we've got a potential deal together, and I did pull a audible at the last minute. I put Chang back into it. I really like his potential. But you look at his profile right now, and it's similar whether we look at the OSA ratings or our Scouts ratings, and he's got 40 contact, 50 gap power right now, but not a lot of speed. He does have the 60 home run power, but 50 eye and 40 discipline. I just don't know that I want him on my major league team coming out of spring training. And there is the potential that he'll opt out of the contract if he's not on the team, and we won't get anything for him. I think he's a highly regarded enough person that he might actually do that. So if I include him instead of Mena, we get Ferrer, he's on a similar deal where it becomes a major league contract and he may opt for free agency. If he opts out, that's fine. This is really a salary dump more than anything else. And then we get a reliever, Sergio Rodriguez. He can pitch for us in Double-A or Triple-A over the next couple of years, but he's certainly not an interesting prospect for the long term. But we're going to save a lot of money if we do that. And I think it's the right move for us. That 25 control for Vanasco just scares the heck out of me, especially given that we're going to owe him $11 million each of the next 2 years before we can get out of that team option. I think he's done. And I think when he comes back from that torn UCL, it's possible that his numbers, his potential, and his stuff and his movement are even worse than they look now. I guess the good news is I don't know that his control can go any lower than it is, but I think Vanasco's done, unfortunately. So this is really a salary dump, but we're going to go ahead and do it. And you can see the good thing is now we've got money to spend. So we might even put a little more into our draft budget just to give us a little flexibility to go over. I guess the other thing is we can finally increase our scouting and development budgets. I mean, scouting, I think at $22 million is as high as we've ever been, but we were at $1.33 million in development, so that gives us the opportunity to crank back up to that level for at least a year, which is positive. And now we got the money to sign anybody we want who's a free agent at this point. Contreras is the most interesting out there. He might not even want to talk to us after that last offer. Still looking for $7 million, $7.9 million. He's angry. We'll up it to $7 million for 1 year. We'll give you $1 million if you win the Cy Young Award. You're not going to win the Cy Young Award. You're probably not even going to be an All-Star. And we'll give you another $500,000 if you pitch 162 innings. Make sure you have to actually qualify for the ERA title. Probably doesn't want to sign with us because we've insulted him so much, but I think this is very reasonable for somebody who's still a free agent on February 1st. But he's not in the mood to continue negotiations, so hopefully we can re-engage with him at some point, but at this point he's going to need to come crawling back to us. I think we're done engaging with him. It doesn't seem like he'll talk to us if we try at this point, so we've still got some thinking to do. I like the fact that we brought in Rule for the bullpen. I like the 2 Rule 5 guys we've got who maybe will turn into something. But we've still got close to 2 months before the season starts, and we've got to get through spring training, and we've got a little bit of money to play with now, but we also no longer have the hope that Ricky Vanasco is going to be coming back to save us in May or June as a, say, 4th or 5th starter for us. That's off the table now, so makes the urgency of acquiring a starting pitcher even more significant. Would still definitely be willing to re-engage with Contreras if he's willing, but it might also be time for us to take another spin through the trade market, and we will focus on kind of figuring out how to fill that last spot in our rotation in our next episode. Until then, thank you so much for watching, and hope you have a great day.